Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Pauline Verzosa.
Tonight's big stories. The plot thickens yet again in the case of dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Guo. Today's Senate hearing revealed that she pre-signed the counter affidavit weeks before she fled the country.
The Philippine Navy monitors fewer Chinese ships in the West Philippine Sea overall this week due to bad weather. But at least 65 are still swarming Escoda Shoal, where the BRP Teresa Magbanua was anchored just 2 days ago.
And former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque is still nowhere to be found days after the House Quad Committee ordered his detention. Quadcom co-chair Congressman Ace Barbers tells him to man up and face the music.
Okay, so it was another bombshell of a hearing today. The Senate resumed its inquiry into offshore gaming and dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Guo as well as other Pogo players.
And just when we thought we'd heard it all, well, here comes new revelations. A former PNP chief allegedly helped Guo and her group escape at the height of the massive manhunt for them.
And then, turns out, Guo also signed her counter affidavit weeks before fleeing, raising new questions over whether her lawyers knew of her plans. Camille Samonte with a big story tonight.
200 million pesos. That's how much a ranking immigration official supposedly got to help Alice Guo or Guo Waping to escape from the Philippines. But today's Senate hearing surfaced another character in this story, according to PAGCOR, a former chief of the Philippine National Police.
Alin pong PNP units ang binabanggit sa usap-usapan?
Hindi PNP unit, ma'am, but personalities.
PNP personality. Sino-sino po?
I think it was mentioned the former chief PNP.
Which one?
I don't know, ma'am, but former chief PNP daw, ma'am.
Wow.
The alleged bribery trickled down to police personnel who received monthly payoffs from a former mayor involved in Pogo operations. All these players will remain unnamed until the PNP verifies the information. But Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa couldn't wait and jumped in to make sure his name is cleared.
Pwede bang malaman kung sino itong former chief PNP? I am concerned because I am a former chief PNP. Baka mamaya mayroong lalabas na script dyan na si Bato ay tumatanggap ng pera galing sa'yo.
Wala pong ganun pong nangyayari.
Sigurado ka?
Sigurado po ako.
The other big revelation today was that turns out Guo pre-signed the last page of her counter affidavit in early June, a few weeks before leaving the country and more than a month before the papers were actually sent to be notarized.
Yung last page po ng document po, na-sign ko po.
Na-sign mo saan?
Na-sign ko po bago po ako umalis.
Na-sign mo yung bago ka umalis. Gawa na ba yung affidavit?
Opo, partially, may natapos na po.
This means the counter affidavit's last page was already signed by Guo before it was attached to the rest of the document. Former Mayor Secretary Kat Salazar confirmed this, being the person who printed and put the document together.
Yes po, Your Honor. Pinakuha po ni Ma'am.
Saan nanggaling yung signed documents?
Tumawag po siya, Your Honor. Ang sabi po niya, punta daw po ako sa bahay niya, may kukunin po isang brown envelope. Nasa drawer po niya, Your Honor, sa room po niya.
Nasa drawer lang yung document. So pumasok ka lang sa kwarto niya, kinuha mo lang yung dokumento doon?
Yes po. Ang sabi po niya, i-attach ko daw po sa last page nung affidavit po niya.
Salazar said she was also ordered to work with the executive assistant of Sual Mayor Dong Kalugay to look for a lawyer that will notarize the counter affidavit. A certain Kadante, a staff of Kalugay and Go's other secretary G. Pepito, entered the picture. Salazar turned the document over to Pepito, who then handed it over to Kadante for notarization.
Isang empleyado lang po kami. Sumunod lang po kami kung ano po yung instruction sa amin. Regarding naman po doon kung alam po namin, actually po, yung totoo po, hindi po talaga namin alam kung nasan po si ma'am.
Sinong abogado nag-prepare nito at pinirmahan mo 1.5 months ahead of the counter affidavit?
Opo, Sen. May kaso na po final po sa akin. I invoke my right against self-incrimination po.
Recall that the lawyer that notarized the counter affidavit, Attorney Elmer Galicia, initially insisted that Go appeared before him personally. At today's hearing, though, he sang a different tune.
Biktima po ako. I am invoking my right against self-incrimination po. The matter had already
Attorney,
been addressed.
please don't take the track of Guo Huaping.
With this, senators now believe that even Go's lawyers were aware that she was planning to flee. Go's counter-affidavit was prepared by the Gana, Atienza, and Avisado law firm. But a junior partner at the firm who was present at the hearing insisted they had no knowledge of her plans nor whereabouts, something Senator Hontiveros found ludicrous.
Sobrang sakto naman ang formatting ng affidavit na to. Saktong-sakto. So, talagang signature page lang ang hinihintay na ikabit sa last page. Ganun ba talaga ang trabaho ng firm sa pagdraft ng counter affidavit para sa kliyente?
In a separate interview, DOJ Undersecretary Nicolas T. said Go's lawyer may also face complaints for their role in submitting a fake counter affidavit to the Justice Department. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Also at the Senate hearing today was Pogo Point person Cassandra Lee Ong, who, just like Alice Go, did not escape steady questioning from lawmakers. This is the first time that Ong appeared at the upper chamber since the investigation on Pogo started 3 months ago. Of particular interest to senators was Ong's birth certificate, which contains her birthplace and her parents' names. Now, according to Ong, a midwife delivered her in a house in San Juan before she was transferred to the Chinese General Hospital in Manila. But Senator Jinggoy Estrada said the home address and the midwife's name provided by Ong do not exist. The senator added the database of the Philippine Statistics Authority does not have the marriage certificate of Ong's parents. In her birth record, Ong was born to a Chinese national mother, Li Xia-ying, and a naturalized Filipino father.
This is another case of questionable birth certificate issued through late registration. And there is no basis for the issuance of Cassie Ong's birth certificate. This should be investigated, and this should immediately be cancelled if there are findings.
Ong was also questioned about her godfather, Duan Ren Wu, the so-called boss of all Pogo bosses. Ong said she did not know that Wu is a fugitive, although they once lived in the same house in Porac, Pampanga, and are business partners. The Senate has issued a subpoena to Wu, who unfortunately is believed to have already fled the country in July. Ong, Wu, and their associates are all facing qualified trafficking charges. Ong is also an incorporator of Whirlwind Corporation, lessor to the Lucky South 99 Pogo Hub in Porac, Pampanga, which was raided in June.
Well, couple shirts and properties with their names on the documents. Why did Sual Pangasinan Mayor Dong Kalugay and Alice Go have them if they weren't in a relationship? Well, that's what senators were trying to figure out for hours at today's hearing. Mian Los Baños has the rest of that story.
Kaibigan lang po, Your Honor.
Just as the Senate hearing began, Dong Kalugay, the mayor of Sual, Pangasinan and rumored boyfriend of Alice Go, straight up denied that he and the former Banban Tarlac mayor are in a relationship. But in the photos presented during the hearing, it appeared that Go and Kalugay were certainly close. There were photos of them wearing matching couple shirts. There were also pictures of Kalugay wearing Go's campaign shirt. It can be seen that they were together at Kalugay's campaign and victory caravan. This led to senators asking if Kalugay and Go are indeed just friends. How close are they?
Nagsusuotan kayo ng campaign shirt ng isa't isa at nandun kayo sa kampanya ng isa't isa. Pakilarawan po, gaano ka-close yung pagiging magkaibigan ninyo?
Magkaibigan lang po kami, Madam Chair. In-invite po ako dyan po, Madam Chair.
Inimbita kayo ni Guo Huaping?
Opo, Madam Chair.
Bakit niya kayo inimbita?
Pinakita lang po niya kung sa akin po nung siya'y nangangampanya po.
Pinakita ang alin po?
Yung tungkol po sa pagparada po.
Kalugay insisted that he and Go did not campaign for each other. They only attended the victory caravan because they were also invited by each other. But the senators remained unconvinced by Mayor Kalugay's answers.
May relasyon ba kayo ni Alice? Gusto mo ba siya? Gusto ka niya?
Ay, wala po. Wala pong ganyan, Your Honor.
Hindi kayo lovers in Pogo?
Ay, hindi po, Your Honor.
So, MU lang, MU?
Wala din po, Your Honor.
So, dinideny mo. May partnership ba kayo? Anything? May bank account kayo together? Meron kayong negosyo together?
Wala po ni isa po, Your Honor.
Senator Hontiveros also obtained information that Go and Kalugay allegedly have a child together. This was reportedly said by Cheryl Medina, the executive secretary of the mayor of Sual.
In fact, may nakuha po kaming impormasyon na kayo mismo ang nagsabi sa kanila na girlfriend ni Mayor Kalugay, si Guo Huaping. Bukod pa dyan, kinwento nyo pa raw sa kanila na may anak silang dalawa.
Wala po, Your Honor, wala po.
Okay, you are under oath, reminding
Yes po, Your
you.
Honor.
Miss Cheryl, ibig sabihin, hindi lang kayo ang fina-fact-find namin dito. Marami pa pong nagsasalita at corroborate namin.
Kalugay's defense is that he is already in a relationship, so he and Go cannot be involved. But again, the senators were unconvinced.
If you keep on lying before this committee, sinungaling na nga itong girlfriend mo, sinungaling ka pa rin.
Your Honor, hindi po ako sinungaling at hindi ko rin po siya girlfriend, Your Honor. Opo, Your Honor.
May asawa ka ba?
May kinakasama po ako, Your Honor.
Yung asawa mo?
You
married?
Yung una po, na-annulled na po, Your Honor. Tapos may kinakasama po ako. Ayan.
May kinakasama ka?
Opo.
Kilala ni Miss Alice?
Hindi ko po alam kung kilala po niya, Your Honor.
Sa tingin mo, Alice, kilala mo yung kinakasama niya?
Sen, hindi ko po kilala.
When they did not get an admission about the relationship, senators began to investigate businesses that they believe are owned by Kalugay and Go. This includes AC Aqua Farm, D Aqua Farm, and Lixel Fish Farm.
Yung D Aqua Farm, Dong. Lixel, Alice, LIC, and Liceldo. Dongo, Dong, and Go. Tinalo nyo pa si Dong yan, ha? Guko. Ha? Siguro stands for Go and Kalugay. Oh. Madidinay mo pa ba ito?
Wala po kung ganyang negosyo po, Your Honor.
Sinungaling to.
Kalugay also denied owning Alicel Aqua Farm, which is believed to be a mashup of the names Alice and Liceldo. According to Kalugay, he only owns a trucking business. The senators believe that if they can prove Mayor Kalugay and Alice Go are business partners in multiple ventures, it is possible that those businesses were used as fronts for money coming from illegal activities involved in money laundering. The Senate also looked into Happy Penguin Resort, which is built on land owned by Mayor Kalugay. But according to the mayor, he sold it just last July for 1.2 million pesos after facing financial difficulties. Senators suspect that Go hid at the resort before leaving for Malaysia in July.
Yung pong Happy Penguin ay talagang sa inyo. Sinusubukan yung i-dispose of ang inyong mga properties. May kinalaman hindi lamang sa business interests nyo ni Guo Huaping, pero yung kasunod na tanong na yung papel ninyo sa pagtatakas niya. Dahil meron po kaming impormasyon na doon sa Happy Penguin, yung isa sa mga pinagtaguan ni Guo Huaping.
Receipts for construction materials listed under the names of Go and Kalugay were also presented during the hearing. They were for Penguin Resort and Three-Lin Q Farm.
Three-Lin Q Farm. Hindi ba sa inyo ito?
Hindi po, Your Honor.
Kanino to?
Ang pagkakaalam ko po, kila Mayor Alice po yan.
O Mayor Alice, sa ito?
Yes po, yan po yung piggery ko po.
Piggery?
Opo.
O bakit may resibo si Mayor Kalugay dito sa pagdala ng materyales?
Hindi po ako nagbayad, Madam Chair. Ang kwento po niyan, tumawag po si Mayor Alice kung saan po makakabili po ng murang mga construction supply kasi po ang family business po namin construction supply. Ang sabi ko, sige, mayroon kaming pinagkukunan na kumari po ni Ate Che. Doon na lang po kayo kumuha. Kaya sabi ko kay Ate Che, kayo na lang po mag-usap at para maka-discount po sila.
Further proof of the close relationship between Kalugay and Go is that some of their employees work together. Go, however, had little to say in response to the senator's questions, citing repeatedly her right not to incriminate herself. For News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
I think if there's one word to describe today's very long Senate hearing, it would be for me unconvinced, because I don't think they got any real answers out of the resource people, and so they remain unconvinced. So, for instance, the relationship between Mayor Kalugay and Alice Guo, because from the get-go they were insisting that they were just friends, right? In fact, Alice didn't want to answer, pero si Kalugay said, we're just friends. But yun nga,
they seem to be very close and they have properties together.
Correct. And
meron pang mga t-shirt.
Senator started surfacing documents showing that their linkages. And meron pa that we didn't mention, there were receipts showing that the construction supplies for Guo's family pig farm, di ba she kept referring to pig farm, or pig farm, were listed under Kalugay's name. So may transactions talaga that happened between them for, I guess, years now, because these receipts were dating back to 2022. So again, I mean, I guess the lawmakers did their homework, right?
Well, another thing that surfaced here is the involvement of the PNP.
Yes.
Right?
CDO,
there was somebody, Dao, who helped her escape and receive allegedly 200 million and is on a monthly payola. But that has yet to be confirmed. But this is the first time we're hearing of it. The Philippine National Police getting involved here.
I remember the senators were grilling immigration as well as to who in immigration, if any, had been complicit as well in the escape of Guo and her group. But they kept saying as of this time they haven't managed to finish their investigation. I could sense the frustration there because it's been a month since this big story broke, right? So they're still fact-finding, and hopefully they come up with something soon because, again, time is ticking. It was egg in their faces when Alice Guo was said to have escaped already, right? But
I'm grateful that we got a lot more details today.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the past hearings where we just heard, I don't know, I don't remember, and I invoked my right to self-incrimination.
Slightly more.
And now we kind of see it is a bigger problem than just a POGO operation, right? We have a mayor involved here, the PNP.
Questions over the lawyers. Did they know that she was planning to flee? Problems with the notary public. Turns out he may know more than he's letting on.
Another thing that came out, even banks were being questioned over the inability to flag the huge money transfers. So that's another side
because
to this.
there's an AMLAC law that says you have to raise it, right? Yeah.
Well,
we'll have to keep following the story.
Now, speaking of the Chinese, the Philippine Navy says it continues to monitor a large number of Chinese ships in various features in the West Philippine Sea, but particularly at Escoda Shoal. A Philippine Coast Guard ship is now on its way to the shoal to replace the recalled BRP Teresa Magbanua. Brian Basa with the full story.
The BRP Teresa Magbanua is now at port in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, and it seems that it will take a while before repairs from the damage it sustained, particularly from the ramming incident on August 31st, can be completed. So, with the Magbanua out, how will the Philippines watch over Escoda Shoal? Following the PCG flagship's departure from its post after over 5 months at sea, the Philippine Navy has monitored more than 60 Chinese ships around Escoda Shoal. The Armed Forces of the Philippines insists this isn't a cause for concern. The AFP says it stays committed to protecting the country's maritime features.
They have never been in control. Their presence there is illegal. Hindi ito patentero na naharangan ka hindi ka makapasok.
We are still able to perform our mandate in the conduct of our maritime patrols in the area, and we will continue to do that.
The Philippine Coast Guard, for its part, says it has sent another ship to Escoda Shoal to replace the Teresa Magbanua, but neither the PCG nor other officials would say which boat has been deployed there or even which type of vessel it is. The AFP says it has also developed capabilities to monitor the area in ways other than being on water.
There are a range of different capabilities that are sea-based, air-based, or space-based that we are developing in conjunction with our partners and allies to be able to monitor not only Escoda but the entire West Philippine Sea.
The Escoda Shoal lies just 75 nautical miles from Palawan and is well within the country's exclusive economic zone. The Teresa Magbanua was sent there in April to monitor what officials say was illegal Chinese activity. That includes the recently discovered reclamation of certain features in the shoal. Until recently, Escoda Shoal was relatively insignificant, but its proximity to mainland Palawan and the Ayungin Shoal, where the BRP Sierra Madre is grounded, makes it a strategic location. It's also close to Recto Bank, which is said to hold valuable oil reserves. And in past resupply missions to the BRP Sierra Madre, AFP boats would usually meet up with their PCG escorts at Escoda Shoal. Will the heavy Chinese presence affect future missions to Ayungin Shoal?
There are many ways to conduct a resupply mission, a rotation mission in Ayungin Shoal without necessarily passing through Escoda.
The United States, for its part, continues to call out China for its actions inside the Philippine EEZ.
There's no legal basis for the PRC's maritime claims in the South China Sea, and the dangerous ways in which it attempts to enforce those claims put Filipino lives and livelihood at risk. I wouldn't want to forecast what this particular incident might mean, other than to say that we continue to support our Philippine allies.
Though there are limited vessels that can be deployed to Escoda, officials say the government is resolved to maintain presence there in whatever way they can.
We will not be deterred. Whatever challenge we face in the West Philippine Sea, we owe it to the Filipino people. Hindi po tayo magpapatinag, magpapatuloy tayo sa ating mandato na tiyakin ang integridad ng ating teritoryo.
In Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, for News 5, I'm Brian Basa, and we are One News.
The number of Chinese vessels being monitored in the West Philippine Sea actually decreased compared to last week. That's according to data released by the Philippine Navy today. It's dropped from 207 to 157 ships. Still, there's no denying the Chinese continue to maintain a heavy presence there. Breaking it down, we have Scarborough, 6 Chinese Coast Guard vessels, or CCGs, 3 People's Liberation Army navies, or PLA navies, 8 Chinese Maritime Militia vessels, or CMMs, and 1 research vessel. Ayungin Shoal, we have 10 CCGs, 7 CMMs. Pag-asa Island, we have 1 CCG and 31 CMMs. Lawak Island, we have 4 CMMs. Panata Island, we have 4 CMMs. Iroquois Reef, we have 17 CMMs. Again, CMM stands for Chinese Maritime Militia. Escoda Shoal, we have 9 CCGs, 4 People's Liberation Army navies, and 52 CMMs. The Navy attributes the fewer Chinese vessels this week to bad weather, which was also the main reason the BRP Teresa Magbanua had to be recalled from Escoda Shoal.
Yung 5 buwan na itinagal ng BRP Teresa Magbanua, it was only this past month, no, ng August, na hinarangan ang ating mga operation. But in those previous months from April, May, June, July, naging maayos naman ang pagbibigay natin ng supply sa ating mga tropa. Supply is not the only main reason. The main factor why we decided to pull out is because of the bad weather condition.
Commodore Tariela also insisted that the pullout had nothing to do with Philippine-China talks known as the Bilateral Consultation Mechanism, the most recent one of which was concluded just last week. During that round, Beijing had once again asked that the Magbanua be removed.
The decision of the Coast Guard Commandant, Admiral Ron Hildebrand, to pull out BRP Teresa Magbanua is a decision that he made, out of those considerations that I mentioned. The bad weather, the depleted supplies, the damage to the Coast Guard vessel. These are the primary considerations that he used in making the decision. It's not because there was a BCM that was recently completed with DFA and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ang diplomatic communication na to is only limited to the DFA. So with regard to whatever outcome that happened, it is not connected with the decision of the Commandant.
Well, we're going to be taking a quick break, but up next, Day 2 of the plenary deliberations of the 2025 national budget continued earlier today at the House of Representatives. We'll discuss this with Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel when the big story returns. Stay with us.
welcome back. You're watching the big story here on One News.
The search continues for Harry Roque, with the PNP mobilizing its special tracker teams to find the former presidential spokesperson. PNP Chief General Romel Marbil confirmed that they have officially received the request from the House of Representatives to search for Roque. The former presidential spokesperson was held in contempt by the House for failing to submit documents requested to determine how his wealth grew and if it is connected to Pogos. The PNP is now coordinating with the National Bureau of Investigation and the Bureau of Immigration.
All effort po ng ginagawa po ng all law enforcement, not only the Philippine National Police, but all law enforcement po ang tumutulong po sa paghanap po niya po. Tuloy-tuloy naman po yung paghanap po namin. Hindi naman po kami hihinto po. Hindi lang ito kay Harry Roque. Sa lahat ng taong merong processes galing sa ahensya, be it warrant of arrest, be it contempt, sundin lang po natin ang batas.
Even though Roque remains untraceable, he managed to go live on Facebook yesterday, claiming he is not a fugitive and that the House of Representatives is just power tripping. Roque said he will wait for the Supreme Court's decision on the petition he filed challenging the House's arrest order.
Hindi ako pugante dahil ako po ay lumabag sa batas. Pugante ako sa Kongreso lamang. Wala po akong pakialam. Nagawa nila, pasigaw-sigaw, kapag ayaw na sagot, contempt kaagad, nagpa-power tripping na po sila.
Quad Committee Chairman Ace Barbers immediately denied Roque's accusation, saying it was Roque himself who volunteered to submit documents regarding his companies. As the search continues, Barbers issued this challenge to Roque.
Kailangan pa ba mag-power tripping ng mga Quadcom chairs? 'Di ba? Marami ho sa amin ay mga bago. Ako, graduating ho ako. Kailangan pa mag-power trip? Alam nyo, maraming sinasabi ito si Attorney Harry Roque sa likod ng Quadcom o sa labas ng Quadcom. Magpakalalaki ka, umarap ka dito sa amin, hindi yung nakatalikod ka palagi sa Quad, doon ka nagsasalita. Interest doon sa kanyang yaman. Ang aming interest is kung ano yung link ng Biancham Corporation at yung PH2 Corporation na siyang may-ari doon sa Lucky South 99. Yun ang interest ng Quadcom.
On to another story. It's day 2 of the plenary deliberations of the 2025 national budget at the lower house, which has committed to pass House Bill 10800 or the General Appropriations Bill before the chamber goes on break in October. They only have 8 working days, which means there will be marathon debates from now until the end of the month. Today, agencies including the Ombudsman and DILG had to defend their budgets. But the big day falls on September 23, when the House tackles the allocations set aside for the office of the Vice President. Recall that a panel has already slashed the proposed budget by almost 1.3 billion pesos after Vice President Sara Duterte snubbed the second hearing. Whether or not she shows up to the plenary debate, it will be up to her designated sponsor, Lanao del Sur 1st District Representative Zia Alonto Adjong, to defend her allocation for next year.
Okay, so let's discuss the ongoing plenary deliberations with Kabataan Party List Representative, Congressman Raul Manuel, who joins us live via Zoom. Good evening, Congressman. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, ma'am. Mga ma'am sa lahat po. Good evening and to all our viewers.
First of all, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. And second of all, thank you so much for making time for us. I know these are very hectic days for you. We just read the news. You've got, 6 days now left to finish all the deliberations for the 2025 national budget. How is it going, do you think? How would you characterize it, yung plenary debates right now?
Yeah, actually po kahapon na-suspend yung session at 11 p.m. Kasi nga sinisikap talaga na squeeze yung plenary debates for all agencies ng national government in just 8 days. Kaya actually we want more time. Ang limit lang po natin ay 30 minutes for each member of the House who wants to ask regarding the budget and the performance of a certain agency. Kaya kakapagod din talaga.
Pero you think kaya by the end of the month? Because by October, the lower house is going on break, right? Kaya naman?
Well, based po sa first 2 years natin sa budget deliberations, hinahabol po talaga to end it by Wednesday. Kaya I really believe na sacrifice din yung quality ng debates. While we want to maximize the time, raise the top issues, but if we really want thorough discussion sa proposed budgets and the performance of each and every agency, kulang po talaga yung 8 days.
Congressman Manuel, I want to home in on the issue with the OVP's budget. I know you're part of the panel. So when Appropriations panel, I think she's Senior Vice Chair, Congresswoman Stella Quimbo, announced that the panel has decided to slash about almost 1.3 billion pesos from the budget of the Office of the Vice President. She described it as a unanimous decision. But that decision, that conversation took place behind closed doors kasi. I wonder if you could give us a better flavor of what happened then. What was the talks like?
On my end, personally, hindi ako official member ng House Committee on Appropriations, though we are active in the briefings held by the committee as a member of the minority. Nonetheless, from what we pick up from fellow members of the House, ayun pinesent ang proposed cuts sa different portions ng budget ng Office of the Vice President, lalo na yung proposed na mga financial assistance programs or services. And taking off from the second budget briefing sa OVP, nakita natin na the right step din naman ito. Kaya compared siguro sa last year na sobrang madugo ang budget debate sa plenary level for the OVP, tingin natin more of clarificatory questions yung mangyayari by September 23. But still, hindi tayo titigil dun sa mga questions pa rin regarding the performance of the OVP.
Your questions for September 23 for her have to do with confidential funds lang or overall on her the budget proposal?
We will deal with both since nakita nga natin kung paano highly discretionary yung pag-grant ng confidential funds. And in fact, gusto din natin na maging consistent talaga sa scrutiny. Tama yung ginawa na yung Office of the Vice President, hindi talaga pinalampas. Legislators, including us from the Makabayan Coalition, those in the minority, even those in the majority, posed lots of questions sa Office of the Vice President. Pero gusto din natin na kahit nga sa ibang agencies, lalo yung Office of the President, which has up to 4 billion in confidential and intelligence funds, ay matanong din sa ganong aspect.
Congressman, natama kayo kasi naalala ko nung huling budget hearing, yun nga yung binibring up ninyo, no? The lawmakers were making an issue out of the OVP's confidential funds, but malaki yung sa Office of the President. I mean, apart from that issue, where else do you expect the interpellation to take long? At saan nyo gusto mag-raise ng mga issue dito sa budget hearing natin?
Yes. Actually, sasalang din on the same day sa OVP, bali sa September 23, after the OVP, yung National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, as well as the National Security Council. So, very timely din yung ganong schedule kasi nga, for the sake of consistency, if we want streamlining of functions of agencies, for example, yung Office of the President, for 2025 sa proposed budget, nasa 44% ay confidential and intelligence funds. Not different from sa NICA, na 45% ng proposed budget niya ay intel funds. E di kung ganon, parang nagpa-function na rin like an intel agency yung Office of the President. So if we scrutinize the use of those secret funds sa OVP, dapat ganon din sa OP.
Okay, isa pang issue that has been on the hot seat are the unprogrammed funds. Alam natin yan, no, na insert yung provision on GAA for 2024 to provide the fund of GOCCs or excess funds of GOCCs to funnel that fund towards the unprogrammed appropriations. So, paano natin i-interpolate this time yung ganyang provision? Meron ka ba nakikita nakasama doon sa dito sa plenary?
In fact po, for example, considered pa rin sa priority for this year, for 2024, to be funded under unprogrammed appropriations, ang Barangay Development Program ng National Task Force LCAP. It has 2 billion in programmed appropriations this year. Tapos meron pong nakapark doon na 6 billion pesos for unprogrammed appropriations. At ang sabi ng DBM Secretary noong August 5 ay nag-commit daw ang nakaupong Pangulo na hahanapan ng pondo iyan. Kaya nasa list pa rin ng priority. So doon natin nakikita ang problems kung ang pinag-uusapan pala natin ay hindi lang yung program appropriations, which is ito yung usual na notion natin ng national budget, ang nasa 6.3 trillion pesos. Pero meron pa palang annex na budget na yun yung highly discretionary. It really depends on the president where to get those funds and which programs will eventually get funded. Labas na sa discussions ng mga mambabatas.
Pero dito sa bill ng House, kasama ba yung provision na yon? May ganun pa rin na provision? Kasi alam ko nag-file na ng case sa Supreme Court to declare this unconstitutional. So how is that discussion going?
Sa 2025, unfortunately, still meron pa ring provisions on unprogrammed appropriations, and the budget sponsor for the departments under the cluster of the economic managers said that ang ini-invoke po kasi doon ay meron daw dati na decision na hindi daw naka-classify as pork barrel ang unprogrammed appropriations. Nonetheless, we believe na sa panahon ngayon na tumataas talaga ang level ng unprogrammed appropriations, we can't just treat it as a minor attachment to the national budget. If the amounts are already bloated and the room for abuse of those funds and leaving discretion to only a few top officials will be there, then kailangan talaga mabusisi at dapat din mag-proceed yung mga decisions on cases filed in the Supreme Court.
You also know it is election year next year, right? At yun ang pag-uusapan na parang ito yung bagong pork barrel na kung saan kumukuha ang mga lawmakers para sa kanilang pet project imbis na ilagay sa priority. No? Where else? Which parts of the budget are you zoning in on?
Part din po ng ating focus on scrutinizing the 2025 national budget is the different items connected to the National Task Force LCAP. It has been flagged already for several years, and we learned in the budget briefing for the DILG kasi sila po ang nagmamanage ng Barangay Development Program. Ito po yung mga cleared barangays di umano are set to receive funding for electrification, scholarships, burial assistance. And as of August 2024, when we asked for the accomplishment rate of this program, ang nabanggit po sa atin, wala pa pong accomplishment. So, 4 na buwan na lang po ang natitira for 2024 at wala pang ganitong progress. And it might take even 2 or 3 years para lang ma-utilize yung buong budget. So it's very inefficient, and instead of trusting our agencies like DSWD, DepEd to decide and to allocate kung sino yung magiging beneficiaries ng ganong mga programs, dinadaan pa sa National Task Force LCAP. So then again, similar sa ginawa sa OVP na idediretso na rin sa agencies, might as well, ganun din yung maging mode dapat for NTF-ELCA to strip it of its budget and realign it to social services in different agencies.
Congressman, I want to come back to the OVP budget because I just remembered something. Last year, they cut off your mic, right? Ikaw yun, right? Nang napatayin ng mic during the debates?
Yes.
I'm not going to ask you if you're expecting that, but my question is, Vice President Sara Duterte says all of this has to do with politicking, that there is a script against her, that you guys are following a narrative against her. What would you say to that?
Well, there is this tendency of the Vice President and even the past administration that all of their perceived enemies are clumped together. May it be red tagging people. Even the House Speaker was red tagged by a certain media group. Also, there's this naming of an alliance of our coalition with the House leadership and the top official of the government. So may ganun pong tendency, and ito po kasi yung nakikita nating fallback whenever the Vice President and even public officials in their family are already unable to explain and answer questions by members of the House in behalf of the public. Kaya po we really believe na hindi tama yung ganong paniniwala na sasabihin nila, politicking lang yung lahat ng ito. Because we're simply doing our job. We were elected as members of the House to scrutinize the proposed budgets of all agencies, even nga po yung sa Office of the President. So, ganun lang po yung ating trabaho.
One thing's for sure, he's not alone now in challenging the
Yun
budgets.
nga, because part of the reason I think the public sees it as a ploy was because last year, her budget passed with no questions asked in just under 22 minutes, right? The only people who tried to question it and who protested were you guys, Makabayan Bloc, right? And this year, suddenly there were 17 interpellators in the first, was it the first or second hearing? But again, you're saying wala naman script. You're not following a script. There is no coordinated plan to take her down, so to speak.
Yeah. On our end, ma'am, sa Makabayan Coalition, lagi talaga wala tayong pinapalampas na agencies. So actually, it would be on the part of, for example, sa block ng sitting president, yung mga pinakamalapit sa kanya, actually mas kami din sa Makabayan Coalition, we challenge them to show their sincerity sa publiko na actually nga dapat hindi nag-grant ng parliamentary courtesy sa budget briefing sa committee level for the Office of the President. And dapat din, ang hamon din natin sa Office of the President is to give up their request for billions in confidential and intelligence funds, because supposedly the Office of the President is a civilian agency and its mandate is so diverse na hindi yun nakaka-capture ng significant portion ng budget na mapupunta lang sa confidential and intelligence funds.
With the OVP budget, we know that the sponsor, si Congressman Adyong, was meant to have spoken to the OVP's office. But the last time we spoke to him, which was just a few days ago, hindi pa raw sila nag-uusap. He was trying to coordinate, but there was no follow-through from the other side. And he needs their help to answer a lot of the questions, right? Could you help us understand what happens when the sponsor himself is unable to answer satisfactorily a lot of the questions on the plenary floor?
Then it would be a reason for members who are posing questions to assert that the budget of a certain agency will be slashed. Kahit na meron ng mga kaltas sa budget ng Office of the Vice President, pero kung meron pa talaga dong dapat na kaltasan, kasi nga actually sa budget request ng OVP, which is originally a bit more than 2 billion pesos, 1.9 billion is for this group of budget items called social services delivery. And that includes payment for personnel and capital outlay like yung mga satellite offices and all that. So if we are to just stick to the core functions of the OVP, yung mga permanent personnel naman ay masweldohan pa rin, ganyan. Ang matitira lang sa essential na budget ng OVP would be 100 million pesos. So kung mahirapan po yung sponsor, then actually may possibility na i-assert pa natin talaga na bawasan.
Pwede pang makaltasan.
So the lawmakers have that power, okay, to cut it out pag hindi nasagot ni Congressman Adyong.
Ganun po yung pwedeng mangyari.
What's the least amount that it can go down to?
Yes, parang yun na po yung magiging bare minimum eventually. And we can register that on the floor sa budget deliberations. And we still would want na pakinggan talaga din yon, lalo nung mga masasama sa bicameral conference committee. Kasi yun yung eventually mag-finalize ng versions ng House and ng Senate. And sa ngayon po kasi, there are indicators that certain senators, with all due respect to them, would actually prefer na ibalik yung original budget proposal ng OVP. So dapat din, tutukan din natin sila.
I mean, they've come out to say it naman. They, like Senator Joel Villanueva, for one. The name of the other one escapes me right now. But there have been at least two of them who've said dapat i-restore out of parliamentary courtesy. This is not something you do to the official, the second highest official of the land. Are you worried that this might eventually cause tension with the upper chamber, for instance?
Yes po, there's that possibility. Pero sa atin po kasi, we believe that what we're talking about is not a certain person. Yung usual po na ini-invoke na courtesy, tradition. Pag ganun po kasi yung reference natin is kung sino yung nakaupo. But then again, we're talking about the people's budget. Pera po ito ng taong bayan. And kung hindi din naman talaga na-justify ang paggagamitan at kung paano din ginamit yung past budgets, it is only right to slash those parts of the proposed budget na hindi na talaga katanggap-tanggap na i-grant pa. No? Kung para sa ilang senators natin, okay lang for example na yung Magnegosyo Taday program for 2023, ang nagamit lang ay 0.4%. Kung okay lang po sa kanila yan, then let the people judge kung paano po nagde-decide yung ilan sa mga kapwa natin mambabata sa Senado.
Okay.
Okay, Representative, pahabol lang, still staying on the topic of parliamentary courtesy. Last week, nagkaroon ng clash sa House regarding naman dun sa budget ng Office of the President. And as we know, the Makabayan Bloc did express strong objection to this motion to scrutinize yung budget din ng OP. What's the latest on this, Representative?
Well, after nun ay hindi na siya nabalikan at ang mangyayari ng for the budget of the Office of the President ay diretso na sa plenary at ang schedule po nun ay September 24. Sa bahagi po natin, actually may mga pagkakataon na note po natin, though I was not yet a member of the House, but during the pandemic, ay naalaw po ang former representative natin, si Congresswoman Sara Elago, to ask questions, although through online means, sa committee level for the Office of the President. So actually, wala pong tradisyon na set in stone. No? In fact, if the agencies would really be willing to explain to the people kung para saan yung kanilang proposed budget, then dapat hindi nag-grant ng parliamentary courtesy. And second, the agencies also should waive parliamentary courtesy because they have that option.
Okay, we're gonna let you go because it's 9 o'clock almost and you've got a very long day ahead of you pa tomorrow. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight to talk. That was Kabataan Party List Representative Congressman Raul Manuel.
Salamat.
Moving on now to weather. Torrential rains and heavy flooding continue to be experienced by several provinces in the country as Tropical Depression Hener makes its way out of the Philippine area of responsibility. Local officials in Palawan have been monitoring the Concepcion Bridge, which connects to the only highway in the province leading to other towns in northern Palawan. Due to strong rains, water flow from the mountain has been strong. And if the rain continues, the river may overflow, making it impassable. According to the Palawan PD-RRMO data, 15 out of the 23 towns in the province are currently affected by flooding. 3 fatalities have been confirmed, including 2 in Rizal town and a woman swept away by a flash flood in Rojas. No injuries have been reported yet, however. 2 fishermen from San Vicente and Balabac are missing. Currently, the Palawan PD-RRMO has not recommended declaring a state of calamity, but they expect flooding to continue in other towns. Tropical Depression Hener was last located 255 kilometers west-northwest of Baguio City. The storm has winds reaching 55 kilometers per hour with gusts up to 70 kilometers per hour. It is moving westward at a speed of 30 kilometers per hour. The areas under signal number 1 have been reduced though, with only Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, and the western portion of Pangasinan remaining. Hener is expected to exit the country by tonight. However, Hener, along with Tropical Storm Pulasan, continue to intensify the southwest monsoon or the Habagat. This will continue to bring rain to the country in the coming days.
And before we go, here's our big picture tonight. Well, we often see this whenever it rains hard. Children playing, wading, and swimming in rainwater. So parents, listen to this. The Metro Manila Council has approved the recommendation of the Health Department to impose fines for playing and other unnecessary activities in stagnant rain or flood waters. This is due to high cases of leptospirosis recorded recently. San Juan City already has an ordinance on this, which carries a 500 to 1,000 peso fine for children caught playing in rainwaters.
Bawal na maligo sa ulan.
Because of leptospirosis.
Yeah.
And I was just, when you were reading the news about Hener, I was like, what is the international name of Hener? I actually don't know this time. Do you?
It's
Bibingka.
Pulasan.
Was it Bibingka?
Pulasan,
No,
right?
Bibingka is the other one.
Pulasan, right?
Pulasan ba?
Is it?
It sounds like a Tagalog name.
No, because Bibingka is an Indonesian.
Yun nga, it's so funny.
Maybe Pulasan is a...
Hindi na, kanina, di ba, pinag-uusapan natin yung Palawan. Nagigets ko na kung bakit bad weather.
Yeah,
yung
it's
sabi ng
back-to-back
Philippine Coast
weather
Guard.
disturbances.
Doon sa may Escoda Shoal.
Yes.
Because they're affected in that area.
Yeah.
So now we understand
back-to-back weather
better.
disturbances.
Oo.
But also, you were saying it was curious because wala na yung Navy's
Oo.
ayungin.
So yung kanina we're talking about the deployments of the Chinese boats.
Yeah.
And it's actually interesting because you see the PLA Navy ships of China in Scarborough and Escoda where they're trying to get effective control. Sa Scarborough, they have effective control. Sa Escoda, ngayon, dahil inalis natin yung Magbanwa, parang yun. Pero meron din silang
But most of all,
52 CMMs.
52 Chinese maritime militia in Escoda.
So you can imagine how tight it is to get to Escoda. And sa Ayungin naman, walang PLA Navy ship. They're just 10 CCG and 7 CMMs. So you can see it's a little bit de-escalated in Ayungin.
But also curious why there's so many Chinese maritime militia in Escoda right now. Again, officials insist that we have not lost it. And also, it varies in features compared to Ayungin. For instance, maraming entrance yung Escoda.
Yung Escoda. And then we can just send a ship there.
Right.
But of course, it's going to be a challenge to get back in there, given the number of...
And one other thing that a lot of people get wrong is that the Teresa Magbanwa was never meant to be permanently stationed there. It was just out there on a mission. And in fact, it lasted longer than expected.
5 months.
Ray Powell was pointing this out to us last night. It was not like the Sierra Madre, which was purposely grounded there permanently to serve as a permanent outpost, right? So Teresa Magbanwa was always just meant to go and then come back at a specific time.
But it is curious to me why the Philippine government decided to anchor the Teresa Magbanwa there for 5 months. For the first 4 months, we were able to resupply it. Nahirapan sa 5th month. And was it because of the suspected artificial island building?
To monitor the
alleged reclamation.
Alleged.
Got a lot of
to monitor the activity there. There's something going on there. Whatever it is, we're not absolutely sure of, but nevertheless, they're keeping their presence there for now.
All right, but for tonight, that's our show.
Well, the important thing is our Philippine Coast Guard men are safe and back home.
And still resilient.
And that's our hope also for everyone in the midst of the typhoons here in the Philippine Area of Responsibility. But for tonight, we are One News all sides all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.